Okay. So in previous class, we have discussed about delegation, centralization, and decentralization processes. And in delegation, delegation is downward transfer of authority from superior to subordinates. And in this process, only authority can be transferred while responsibilities cannot, because somehow manager is still ultimately responsible for ensuring the completion of the work properly. And there are three elements of the delegation of authority. These are yeah, authority, responsibility, uh, and accountability. So, if any one of these is missing, then the delegation process is seen to be incomplete. And there are some issues also in the process of delegation, which Mintzberg called the dilemma of delegation. And there are some behavioral barriers also, like lack of confidence in subordinates, lack of proper control, lack of ability in superiors, and two major issues are lack of availability of information, and required resources. So, for the process of delegation to be done, we have to first ensure the availability of information for the subordinates, and also the availability of resources. So now comes to decentralization. It refers to the delegation of authority throughout all the levels of the organization. We can also say that extension of delegation of authority is called the decentralization. As I said in the lecture, delegation, when delegation is a structural response, then it becomes decentralization. Like for example, as per the standard practices of university system, VC has delegated some of his powers to directors, COE, and director academics, etc., for ensuring the proper decentralization in the management. And also we have seen in the we can also say that the assistant professors have been given independent responsibilities for various important functional areas. So overall, we can say that decentralization is ensured through delegation of power and responsibility, and it overall reflects positively in the management system of the university. So in delegation, we only transfer authority to the subordinates, but in decentralization, we transfer authority and as well as responsibility to the two different levels. And there are some issues also in decentralization, like difficulty in coordination, and sometimes decentralization would make it difficult to relocate the resources at various levels of the organization. And now comes to centralization. Centralization is the concentration of power at one level of the organization, and it seems sometimes advantageous to the system, to the not to the whole system, but to the particular level of the organization, because it becomes efficient in scheduling the task. But for other departments, it is disadvantageous at the same time, because the department seems to be less involved in the decision making process of the organization. So we can see through one of example, when controller of examination releases a scheme for the exams, then sometimes it is difficult to students to present at those dates, and they request for rescheduling the exams. Then it becomes difficult for the department to getting it done from the controller of examination. So this is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriya.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I am Munawar K. Today I am presenting the recap of yesterday's class. In the last class, we had discussed about how should we delegate the work and what do you think is delegation and decentralization. Sir has explained these through different examples of hostel allotment system and our university entrance examination system. Firstly, Sir has explained hostel allotment system. When in earlier times, the accommodation was on the basis of some points or something criteria basis. But now, the power in hands of Central Allotment Committee, then everything was on the basis of availability of room and vacancy of room and space. And after this, sir has explained that the delegation is an act of pushing down the authority at lower level, so that most of the decision has taken at the point of intersection. The simple example has explained that a defective product should be replaced or not. This decision has to be taken by the salesperson of that company. That would be delegation. So act of pushing down authority to lower level in the organization is delegation. When this delegation is structural response, then this becomes decentralization. Decentralization has explained by our exam system, our competitive examination system conducted by our controller of office. Controller of office conducted the competitive examination in the university. It happens that when the centralization is pushed too heavily, one agency becomes the most powerful agency in the system. Respective department feels that centralization results the solution of power. In that time, the students will write request to the chairperson regarding reschedule the exams of such and such date due to the other university examination. Getting these through the controller of office examination is very difficult process to reschedule the exams. When in that time, chairperson of the department will postpone the exam by taking his power. This is decentralization of authority, which means dispersal of decision-making authority at lower level. There are some, when we delegate others, there are some issues also. Sir has explained an example of as a chairperson in our department by preparing a report for our department for the university annual report. Here, sir requests a delegator to a young faculty member who is energetic, who gather information from all the faculty members, like what kind of conferences they have attended and so on. The experience has been they end up taking more time in completing the task and completing the assigned job. If we write the report our own, we can do it faster as much. And if we assign some delegator, he will take more time to complete the task and job. The another issue is with briefing to the delegator. We will explain, we will brief to the delegator what is the expectation from the central office. When we brief this, some data is in our mind, but we cannot able to transfer all the data to the delegator. In that time, superior may tell on only the key points. The delegator do it himself because briefing take a lot of time, cannot do the 100% briefing. This is the dilemma of delegation. A manager may be tempted to do the work himself or herself. Sometimes there are in behavioral way, that is problem at subordinate level, which is any work assigned to a subordinate or a faculty member is an additional burden to them. They will do a substandard job which will affect our report or the assigned task. Decentralization coupled with proper monitoring and feedback system can ensure that the organization is doing the job in the right way. So these are the issues of decentralization. These are from my side. Thank you, sir.
So Munawwar and Supriya, both of you did a very good job. Today I am very happy with your performance. And I understand that both of you remain very true to the discussion that we have had, and you crystallize those ideas because we have discussed them not in a very organized way, but you presented the entire recap in a very organized, interlinked way, and that's a very good recap. Well done, Supriya and Munawwar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now today we will wind up our discussion on the third unit which we are carrying out by carrying out some discussion on coordination. But before that, Dr. Zareen, can we finalize the volunteers for tomorrow?
So I have already finalized the volunteers while we were waiting for you.
And can we finalize the recap of the entire unit also tomorrow?
Sure, sir, because group already know that they are supposed to present.
Because tomorrow is the last day of the week when we will be conducting the class.
Right, sir.
So this will finish our discussion on unit 3rd, so that from next week we can move on to the 4th unit related to leadership.
Nice. I'll upload the same. I'll share the same information on WhatsApp group also, sir.
Okay. Regarding this issue of coordination, I hope all of you will appreciate that we have been, when we were talking about organizing, we were talking of division. We were talking of, creating delegation. We were talking of assigning responsibilities to people lower down in the hierarchy. So whenever we create divisions in the organization on some basis, it could be functional basis or it could be on product basis. The next issue that arises is that all the units that are created, they should work in tandem. They should not pull apart. So for example, in the university we have created 3 divisions. We have an academic wing, we have an administrative wing, and we have a residential wing. Okay. The academic wing comprises of all the faculties and the departments that are part of the faculties. The residential wing comprises the hostels and various halls of residence that we have created. The setup is headed by the Dean Students Welfare, and who has a team of the provosts who are responsible for various halls, and within each hall there are hostels and there are wardens in the hostel. So that's our residential wing. Then we have our administrative wing, which comprises of primarily 3 functionaries: the finance officer, the controller, and the registrar. And this administrative wing is assisted by the Pro Vice Chancellor of the university, and then he reports to the Vice Chancellor. Now imagine a situation where these units are not working in coordination and tandem. How do we ensure that the system works in coordination? That is our next challenge of organizing. That means we break apart, but then again we have to bring together. Like for example, if we have seen disturbances happening whenever there is some problem in one of the setups. For example, suppose if there is a overcrowding in the hostels, can we run our academics smoothly? Naturally not. Or if the residential system of the university is not in any way responding to the challenges, it will create huge problems both in the administrative system, because there will be law and order problems, and then the proctor and all who are administrative functionaries, they will have to get involved. Likewise, it will be very difficult to run and the smooth classes also in the university if our residential wing is not working properly. How do we ensure coordination? That is the next challenge of organizing. Now, one of the issues that we have discussed earlier, when we create divisions, we divide authority amongst the various units. Now, what happens is that after some period of time, that authority gets more and more in those units. For example, initially the controller office might have just been started as a support institution. Its main job was to assist the main departments, which were the main functional units of the university, to conduct their exams or to admit students as per a particular procedure. But gradually what happens is that they acquire more and more power, and then they start exercising authority more than they deserve. And as a result of it, the conflicts arises. Yesterday, I gave you the example of, finalizing the scheme for the exam. Naturally, chairman, in consultation with the students of the department, are in the best position to decide the timing, decide the exams. When should they be held? In which order they should be held? But if they have less say in deciding this, then naturally there is a potential for conflict. So whenever we divide the work, there will be difference of opinion. And those differences often accentuate, often increase, and as a result, the organization is pulled apart. Rather than working in common direction, it starts pulling itself into different directions. So how do we resolve the differences? That is something which is the core issue in coordination. There will be difference of opinion, there will be difference of perspectives. But how do we resolve those differences? Generally, how do we resolve the differences? There are three methods through which we resolve the differences. One is the method of domination. This you have seen in the families also. When there are so many family members, often the conflicts arises. Now, domination is a mode. What do we do in that? One party dominates. So, I win and you lose. That is the approach in domination. So, in organizational context, there will be some units who would be more powerful. For example, in this example which I shared with you, suppose the controller's office is more powerful and they say that we will decide the scheme of exams. We will have the final say in this matter. So whatever we may suggest, whatever inputs we may give, final decision will be theirs. So what happens in this? The differences are resolved through domination. I say something, I may say anything, I may suggest anything, but ultimately the other party, which is the dominant party, will decide. That's one approach of resolving differences. The second approach is through compromise. What is this? So in the first approach, I win, you lose. In the second approach, I win some, I lose some. Likewise, you win some and you also lose some. So compromise is a method through which each party gives up a bit. And then we resolve the differences through this method. I give you an example. When I was heading the coaching and guidance center, which is now called the Residential Coaching Academy, we used to have an advisory committee which had very high profile members. We used to meet twice a year or at least once in a year. I requested the Vice Chancellor that, when such high profile people come to attend the meeting, we should have some sitting fees, as it is called. Because I was also member of some similar bodies outside and I was getting this sitting fee when I used to participate in those meetings. I proposed the same system for the university. Though I received a call once from the Vice Chancellor's office in this context, And when I reached there, I found that the finance officer was also sitting over there. And he said, what you propose is will create problems for us, because such advisory committee meetings are at number of places in the university. For example, people come and they attend board of studies meeting, and they will also demand sitting fees then, because then this will become a precedent for the entire university. And they said, okay, we cannot accept your demand. But I persuaded the Vice Chancellor, so finally Vice Chancellor agreed. He said, yes. I said, these people may not be expecting anything in cash, but we should give them something in kind, for example. They are such high profile people. They are sparing time, that is good enough, but we should also have a gesture. So finally Vice Chancellor also agreed, but then they reduced the amount that I was proposing. I had proposed an amount of rupees 1,000 then. That's, I'm talking about more than a decade back. They finally agreed to charge sum of rupees 500 only, or to offer a sum of rupees 500 as on rating, which to me was not good enough, but I said, ठीक है, something is better than nothing. So this is resolving differences through compromise. Now I am asking you this question. What happens when we resolve differences through these methods? That is either domination or through compromise. Is it good for the organization?
Sir, I think it is better to have mutual understanding
It is better to
organizations, and that would be not in the present in the case of domination, but it would be present in the other case, in the case of compromise.
Okay, Aditya. Can we have some other person's opinion also?
These things bring speed of decision, sir. Better speed of decision.
Hmm.
Method of domination and compromise.
So I hope you will agree with me on this account that when we resolve differences through domination, one party gains supremacy and the other party, which has been slighted or which has not been given due attention, feels neglected and they feel bad about it. And it naturally impacts the culture of the organization. The one who is a victor feels at the top of the world, and one who has been compromised or one who has not been given due attention feels neglected and lost. And that is not good for the team spirit of the organization. Likewise, compromise also, it's a situation where I win some and I lose some also. So no party is fully satisfied. There is a third method which Mary Parker Follett calls the method of integration. And I give you an example again from an experience which I have had in the running of the university. I was looking after this residential coaching academy setup and we were housed in a building which is a historic building, part of the Sir Syed Hall, the first hall that we created. And we were stationed or based in that part of the building. It was a double-story building. And what happened that there was a need there. There were 4 rooms on the ground floor, and we wanted to convert at least 2 of these rooms into flexible classrooms, because rooms had a capacity of accommodating 60 students. But sometimes when we used to organize special lectures, the strength would go to 100 plus, So we wanted to create a facility so that we can accommodate 100 plus students in one go. Now that was to be done by creating or removing a separation wall in these two rooms. We consulted the university engineer. We invited him, and he checked the wall which we were proposing to be removed. And finally, he did not agree, and he said this is a historic building, and I have checked this wall. It's a load-bearing wall. So if you try to remove it, it will have structural instability for the building. And he said it is not possible. I had a functional need. He was looking at the structure, and finally we did not agree. And there was hard burning on that account. Now in order to resolve this difference, we invited an architect from the Department of Architecture. He was a young faculty member, and we said this is our point of difference. I appreciate the concern of the university building engineer, and I also have my functional need. What do you suggest? Then he took a round of the entire building, and he went upstairs also with us, and he said, the university's engineer's concern is very valid. Your need is also, I understand, but can't you implement this solution on the first floor and not on the ground floor? I said, there's no problem. If we can do that. And then he said, because there is less of load on the first floor, so if you will implement this solution which the university engineer is proposing on the first floor, there will be less of problems. And then the building's strength will not be compromised. And we all agreed on that solution. And finally, that was what was decided. So the point that I'm making is that in order to resolve the differences, there is a third possibility also, which we call the possibility of integration. Now that integration as an approach is possible only when first we all agree on the basics of the university. For example, if all of us are thinking in common terms, we are thinking of the welfare of the university. At no stage I questioned the motives of university engineer. At the same time, university engineer never questioned my need. We all said, yes, we have to find a solution, and we found a solution which was better solution, a solution which fulfilled his need also, and one which took care of my need also. Isn't it? So there is a third method which we call the method of integration. And if we can use integration as a method of resolving differences in the organization, where we find out a third way, a way which incorporates the concerns of both the parties which are differing on some issue. And if this is done in the organization, then the integration is the best method to resolve differences, and that will ensure coordination in the organization. So this is what I think I will conclude on. If we can coordinate, if we have a common feeling for the organization, some system of shared responsibility, we all feel for the university, every member of the university feels committed to the university's welfare. So when that approach prevails, we are able to resolve differences through integration. And integration is finding out the third way which takes care of the concerns of all. So that's all for today. And with this, we come to an end of our discussion on Unit 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.